If anything, I would think that for Surrender, imitation is the highest form of flattery, and for the only man to defeat Surrender in the round robin to go for his strategy is the highest of compliments.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, this is like a thing that we always say in Hearthstone, right? That like, ideally, you should do whatever is correct the first time around, but it's better to admit you made a mistake than to make a worse play because of that, because you're embarrassed. Like, for Glory here, you know, your opinion can change. You only have so much time to do testing, and he will have been not testing specifically against what decks Bankyugi was going to be brought, because we only found out the deck submission yesterday. And so, to be fair to Glory, I appreciate that he's willing to adapt and switch over to something else here.
Maybe. It could also be that you just don't even know what the right play is, and whether or not you actually made a mistake, but you're willing to try something different. Could also be that in our break, Glory sent Surrender a quick DM and asked, what's the reasoning? And said, oh, that makes sense, and then followed it. It could be many, many things, but we do end up here with Bankyugi once again queuing his Druid first when he's been given the opportunity to play it.
Yeah, I believe the play you're talking about there of having no idea what you're doing and messaging a pro player for advice is commonly known as the Derek Brown strategy that I have really got down to perfection.
How much is this worth?
Also commonly known as what I do for mullet over. So we're in the same boat here.
Glory here going with an interesting way to start things off, because quite clearly there was a stronger immediate play of just throwing down the Dragon's Horde and taking a 3-4 instead of a 2-3. But he deems it worthy to activate the Miscreant next turn to miss out on +1/+1.
I think it's what his hand is kind of dictating Glory to do, because if he misses out the Miscreant activation, that also makes the Edwin very awkward in the near future. So at least the Underbelly Fence makes his turn 4 into turn 5 pretty solid of the Horde Miscreant into Lucky Edwin. It's just a question for Bankyugi of whether he wants to commit the Crystal Power ASAP to give a potentially lackluster Plagiarize to Glory, or just not play a spell altogether to not give Glory a dirty trick.
So if we start to plan out his mana for the next few turns, he can't go Guardian Animals next turn quite yet. So like, he's quite clearly anticipating that he's going to need something to spend his mana on for the next few turns, because if he goes like Coin Twilight Runner, he can't then go Bloom Guardian Animals. And I think what he might be doing is saving that as a 1-mana spell to go with Kael'thas? No, that doesn't work, does it? Because he would go Coin, Bloom, Kael'thas, and then Guardian Animals. It's an interesting one.
The Kael'thas just kind of looks like it gets trapped because he has to spend the small things, the small spells to get the GA down.
It is, of course, Dirty Tricks is the other big one to try and not activate on that turn, but
right,
it's pretty close.
I do think you go for it now, because he still doesn't know whether or not it's plagiarized, because he didn't play a card last turn.
True.
So, Crystal Power, Hero Power, the 2/3. And if it's Dirty Tricks, you're sad, but at least you have the assurance that you can get down Coin, Lightning Bloom the next turn without it being plagiarized.
Okay, this is Spicy Town now.
Oh, yes.
You can take a 10/10, right? Which I think you're pretty happy with.
Yep. I would be very happy with that. Take Varanus as well as a nice on-curve play for the next turn.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Correct positioning as well. You want to put Edwin on its own next to the highest attack minion, which on average is the 2-drop.
And for Bankyugi, no choice but to go for the GA. With the one Twilight Runner in hand, it's impossible for him to deal with Edwin, but at least he can clean everything else up.
Well, you can get the Kael'thas down as well, which is a pretty big deal, right? Plus the Guardian, and then if he draws into a Broom, he could then potentially clear it off, but I mean, not available now.
So he leaves everything but the Pharaoh Cat and the Edwin. Right, I mean, he kills everything.
Yes, because you want to damage the Edwin, right? That's more important. Yeah. I agree.
Time waits for no one.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
And this Piranha's pick is suddenly looking very, very insane here. Oh, but
It
then
is,
he activates Vendetta if he...
Right, and I'm kind of looking at just an Edwin this turn. Like, you can VT,
But
bounce it back to your hand, get it back in.
that's interesting. Okay, he still could have gone for that towards the end there, but...
Is this really better? It gets a 7-6 down. Like, he could have gone Vendetta, Miscreant, double Lackey, Shadow Step. Like,
That
that's
was
a
looking
12-12.
pretty good. I have to
Yeah.
agree. I mean, we have to, of course, acknowledge it's not just the 7-6, it's the 10 to face right now. But
Sure,
I kind
yeah.
of think building the huge board that's not answerable by any means from Bankyugi is safer. And, yikes.
Blessing of Ancients doing next to nothing here. I mean, obviously, you're setting up for the play of Twilight Runner plus Broomstick next turn, so how do you make that as good as possible?
I think it's Dreamwave Broom now, so you can kill the Edwin. There's a 3 attack minion on board.
Okay. That's smart.
What shall we hunt?
Time waits for no one.
Yeah,
And
good spot.
it's very slow from Bankyugi, but this was kind of what Glory was, you should expect the Edwin to get cleared if you leave 3 damage on the other side and have the Edwin at 6 HP. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
even if it's
Glory
not
was
like...
saying it's fine if the Edwin just gets cleared.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
have a 7-6 anyway.
I do disagree with that, because I think you are kind of inviting disaster into your house when you go with that line. But either way, he does still stick a monstrous board presence here. It's still looking very likely that he wins this game. You know, we can start picking him up on these small plays. In the end, it's very unlikely to matter.
I don't think Overflow can get him anything that deals with questing, so we're looking at Twilight Broom. And then you're just dead on board as well.
So you're looking to find Lightning Bloom, of which you only have 1 left in the deck. Like
Crystal Power to heal, and then
yeah.
GA again next turn. Hero Power keeps him alive on board.
10, 11, 12. Yeah, technically it does. And then he will, of course, succumb to the Kobold Lackey on the other side. Glory already, you'd have to imagine thinking, wow, what a great idea to not ban away the Druid and instead get rid of the Mage. Surrender sure is a good Hearthstone player.
To be fair, this is the favorable that you do expect to get to win with against Druid. If he had lined up his Demon Hunter against this, maybe he wouldn't think that was such a good idea, but it's just the way that the lineups are built this week, right? Nobody is hard targeting anything, and nobody is trying to isolate a certain deck from the other side. So you will always end up with a ban that feels good in one matchup and bad against another. I will say though that banning away Mage, that definitely feels like the class that can win versus anything, even when you're miles ahead, like we saw with Alan versus Glory a while ago.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, Mage is, in a way, one of the most targetable classes at the moment because it lacks... It really has no capability to go for extremely defensive maneuvers. It's purely like a tempo-based deck that builds up to these big combos a lot of the time. But given unless you can hit exactly Ice Barrier or Frostbolt, the Demon Hunter, the Bomb Warrior, the Face Hunter, all of these decks are very much able to take it down. But at the end of the day, sometimes it doesn't need that because the proactive game plan is so powerful that it can just win against any deck. Like even the unfavorable matchups like Demon Hunter and Face Hunter, I'd struggle to call it any worse than like 45 to 40% if you're being really generous. So it's still a very reasonable play for Glory to go for, of course, to get rid of the Mage, try and target the Druid, because again, outside of the Demon Hunter, he just has 2 pretty good matchups.
I will agree. And the Druid, every time we've seen it on stream so far, it has, I believe, gotten relatively early guardian animals. Like it's always been ramped out, whether it's with Lightning Bloom or Overgrowth plus Lightning Bloom. But it feels now that there are ways to even beat early guardian animals if you get on board soon enough, which is what Glory's decks are built to do other than Demon Hunter. So we'll see if you can get that matchup done. To be fair, from Surrender, while he didn't get on board super early as Demon Hunter, he built up a great Blade Dance and then just leveraged Militia. So there's ways to even take advantage of Druid's other weak spots, even when they do get the GA down early.
And I wonder if this is what Bankyugi will be thinking. You know, he came into this bringing a somewhat off-the-wall lineup, somewhat off-meta, with the Highlander Rogue and the Druid as well, to a certain extent. And I think now he can quite happily say that the Highlander Rogue has looked okay so far. You know, it's looked pretty decent. I don't think it's hit any disastrous matchups, because I don't think it has any truly terrible matchups. But the Druid has just been looking very weak, way too clunky for the most part.
Definitely felt like it. And it's an interesting mulligan decision for Bankyugi because you do generally keep nature studies and guardian animals, but innervate, if it were something other than nature studies, I would think about keeping that on coin. Just to turbo out GA even sooner. But since you're playing nature studies, it even kind of negates the usefulness of the soft ramp until the actual GA turn. So I like that he is searching for hard ramp instead.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The difference for me is that now if you hit overgrowth off the nature studies, you ramp up to 6 mana, right? At which point the coin plus innovate is pretty useful to get down the guardian animals on the following turn. But it's literally only if you hit overgrowth that's good. So I think even though it gets a little better now to keep innovate than it was before, it's still not quite worth it.
Oh, so are you going to start with his minion development? Another magic trick, I would assume?
I agree. Look for the cram sesh.
Yep. Oh!
Ooh.
What a god.
Those glasses are doing something, Gia. I'll tell you that.
Island on him. Okay, pretty good for Glory. Probably just another Arcane Breath.
I will crush your delusions.
Yeah.
Against most other matchups, this is great board development pretty early on. He has value as well, but against Druid, you gotta know something's cooking. And Jesus. Hello?
Hello, Bankyugi? That's not allowed. Yeah, I mean, this is not looking good for Glory all of a sudden. I will say that. He's positioned correctly. Good job. That's something, I guess, that makes this not, like, insta-lose. But, oh my god, the Nubasath Defender as well? Illegal!
Very illegal. Where's the ref? Ay, ay, ay. Oh my gosh, he just has survival next turn as well.
He has Omu survival, right? With the way it now works. Like, you can just go Omu, Bloom. Oh my god.
Omu, Hero Power, Bloom, Innervate.
Yeah, and while it's Omu survival of the fittest for Bankyugi, it's Omu God for Glory. I'm about to lose this game of Hearthstone.
Omu God, indeed. Doesn't even have a dragon.
Yeah.
To discover more spells. This is just kinda over. I hardly ever call it over this early against Mage, but it's the thing that Glory needs more than a single top deck, and I don't think he'll have more than a single turn after this one.
Ah, so this is what the Druid's been doing wrong. Now I understand. It's all making sense again.
Nothing could stop me from going for the survival play with the Omu. Even Ysera this early. He doesn't have card draw. I want to just get on board. I want my +12/+12 right now.
I guess it is pretty disgusting.
I mean, it does work the way we're thinking, right? Omu, Hero Power, Lightning Bloom. You go up to 10 mana full.
That is what they changed it to. That is how it should work now.
Yeah.
What to do?
Mm-hmm. Then you have a 7/9 and an 8/8 on board, which pushes 15 to the face and sets up 2-turn lead.
Sounds good to me.
And the Omu.
You can even, like, wait, you can't play Ysera next turn, which is, I guess, the one downside, but you can just play a Teacher's Pet that's blooming massive as well.
Uh-huh.
it doesn't really matter. Like, let's be honest, you can go about this whatever you want. You can play the Ysera as he's going for, you can play the Forest Warden Omu. I think you're just winning the game either way.
Not
It's
gonna
turn
lie,
5.
maybe Bankyugi wasn't 100% sure how the Warden Omu works here. Because to be fair, even though every time we've said that it does work that way since the patch happened, it's very rarely that we've seen somebody actually take use of the refreshed soft ramp crystals.
Indeed. Okay, good top deck. That allows him to discover a spell. He's looking for draw, freeze, magey things. That's freeze.
Yep, which he can play one piece of before the giant, because that was generated. Or you can play even both halves, my bad. And next turn, somehow generate Conjurer's Calling.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, just have your portal off the top anyway.
Oh! Malagos into another portal.
Glory's just... Glory has left the building. You can see
Oh
his soul
my
leaving
God.
his body.
Hard work, fighting.
I mean, Surrender, I'm gonna let you finish, but Bankyugi is the greatest druid player of all time.
That is just correct. He can go Gidra Omu and then survival.
Well,
okay, not
and get
anymore.
+0/+0 on his Gidra, right? With the
What?
lightning.
It's +4/+4 with the survival.
Ooh.
All
Nature
insane.
speaks through us.
Yep, that's a big Starfire. Oh my god. Is this like... Who was on the coin this game? It was
Bankyugi.
Bankyugi, right? That was
Yes.
turn 6 that he just played there. This is turn 6, Gia!
But that's a prime. It's not over. It's not over.
Oh my god.
Oh my
No!
god.
What? Oh my god. No. No. No.
Alright, my soul has left my body as well.
Oh my god.
Surely not, right? It's so hard
Surely
for Box
not.
to clear this. Yeah, that's not doing anything.
Nothing.
Nothing. We have 4 more mage spells to get through though.
Uh-huh.
A freeze is a big deal. With decent. With oh! Oh!
Oh!
That's not good enough. That is not
Not
good.
quite good enough. He's got Ice Barrier in play. Does that keep him alive? It's 12, 17, plus 12, 29. Not technically lethal yet, I don't think.
Correct.
Obviously, he doesn't know necessarily about the...
Oh my god, is he just not playing around CS as well? Now he plays the
he's not, Gia.
survival.
Imagine anything going wrong ever for Bankyugi.
Okay. He just... Oh wait, no, sorry. He knows it's barrier because there was a second barrier played.
Oh, really was there? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. That's my bad. Everything faced. What can go wrong? You've seen the prime.
Well, there's still evocation. Apprentice off the top can do some things. You know, this could be a full board freeze. He only needs 1 Ray of Frost and he's completely frozen the board.
Okay. But do you really
It's
want
not
to
over.
trade? I want to go face still. He has it on.
I think, like, the only way he's losing is, like, generated polymorph, Frost Nova, 0 mana giant, some nonsense like that.
Alright. Nova? Raz?
Oh my god. So you go Nova, and then do you...
Evolving?
face?
Just play it while you have it generated. Because the Nova
Right.
doesn't do much if you can't push the 7 face, right? So
Yeah,
you want to
you're right.
devolve the time. Okay.
Whoa,
Hack
that's pretty good.
Nozwhisker?
I don't think that comes into
Wait
play,
a
but he gets the
second.
fireball
Wait.
face.
Wait. Glory's winning.
What?
Winning might be an exaggeration.
What? I mean, he has lethal next turn.
Before we saw Overflow, and there was also potentially just Teacher's Pet, but it's true, he did have Evocation, so I am a big dum-dum for not wanting to trade last turn. Good job, Bankyugi.
Yep, good job, Bankyugi.
Room playable, so there's space.
Broom's huge. That's
Yeah.
absolutely huge. It's a 5/5 as well, so it's a easy peasy clear. Okay, he's back on top. He's
Crisis
winning this game of
averted.
Hearthstone.
Crisis averted. For now. There's another Evocation. Which means there could be another Frost Nova or Blizzard.
He's got Ray of Frost as well. If you can find Apprentice, that's what he's really looking for. Might even just start with that.
Nope. Lat can get Nova or Blizzard?
Nova, Blizzard.
Nope. Barrier does a whole lot of nothing here.
So do you go Allies AI to try and find Apprentice? That doesn't even do that much anymore.
I think it's one maker for Tome and try to hit
Okay.
Tome. Or maybe wait, this Ray of Frost does this do enough with barrier? Is this twin spell? Because he can remove 23 from the board or freeze 23.
Right. So if he goes Ray on this turn, leave 20 damage on the other side of the board, so alive versus anything other than second survival.
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah. Fair play from Glory, but Bankyugi does have other survival in hand, and this time he will certainly play around Counterspell because he doesn't know what the secret is.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you, Gia? There we go. Okay, good job, Bankyugi. Innovates to 11 mana, and it's the correct play. You saw it here first on Grandmasters. We've seen the misplay Innovate to 11 mana, and this time it was just the winning line. Bankyugi, in a series that shouldn't have even entered our minds as a possibility for Glory to have a chance, ended up way too close there.
It really did. That Frost Nova with the double rush minions that were untargetable from Bankyugi off of power creation made for some very, very exciting Hearthstone is one way to put it towards the end there, but at least Bankyugi managed to close it out in the expected fashion. So that is a loss and a win for the Druid. I don't know whether or not Glory is regretting his new ban here, but to be fair, I think a mage on the other side is capable of even greater shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean, that is literally as bad as it can possibly go, right? Like, your opponent gets 2 mana Wild Growth off the top, into Overgrowth, into Guardian Animals, into Ysera, into drawing all the Dream Portals next turn. Like, it cannot go any worse than that. And still, the mage has somewhat of a chance, which really does just show how insane of a deck Tempo Mage is at the moment when piloted correctly. Glory now left with the Mage and the Demon Hunter, whereas on the other side, Bankyugi has the Priest and the Highlander Rogue. So 2 completely different sets of decks now that the players are left over with. I have to say, if I had to guess who was in the lead here, I do think Bankyugi is probably somewhat on the back foot. I think the Priest is a little bit vulnerable to the Demon Hunter, and it's okay versus the Mage. The Rogue, I think, is the main one that could just be in a bit of a rough spot here.
Right. I mean, I am not a big believer in the Rogue. Bankyugi has had way more practice on it than me, though, so still waiting for him to really give it a strong performance. I think he's had 1 win and 1 loss with it on stream so far, and the win did come up against Glory, so we shall see. On paper, I would assume that the regular Secret Rogue would have a better matchup against Demon Hunter because I tend to think that the way Rogue wants to beat that matchup is by going with a very, very tall minion early on, because there's only 1 natural consume magic in the list, and the Highlander Rogue can do that a bit less consistently.
It can, yeah. The thing that the Highlander Mage makes, the Highlander Rogue somewhat makes up for with that is obviously that you have Zephrys, you have Shadow Step to go along with the Zephrys, and for the most part, you just have the curve plan. You have many more minions that you're happy to just throw down onto the board in the early game, as opposed to the Secret Rogue, which, in the other hand, relies on getting these big combos together a lot more of the time. I think that leads to, on average, a lower ceiling for the deck, but also like a higher floor. You're less likely to get an absolutely disaster hand as the Highlander Rogue. It's like, it's a decent deck. Like, I feel like this deck is just pretty firmly tier 2 at the moment. But definitely not quite entering the echelons of Priest, Tempo Mage, Demon Hunter, all these very, very powerful decks right now.
We will start off though with the Priest for Bankyugi, and we saw Alan navigate the matchup pretty well, I would say, from the Priest side, but get eventually run over by the continuous damage Glory put out from early skulls. Glory, however, does not have Skull of Gul'dan in the opening hand, but he does have the thing he was lacking last time we had this matchup, which is an early curve.
Well, Big Ol' Whelp does help to smooth out the difference between the two curves, because right now Glory has exactly what you want in the matchup, which is to say, great big board and plenty of chip damage in the early game.
It's true. I'd hear out the argument for Alex Straza if Bankyugi had minions he would be happy to play early on, because Pyro is not a card that you just want to throw out against Demon Hunter. I think it has too much value with Apotheosis later on. And Alex for Unexpected Heal can give you that one turn to get over the line against Demon Hunter, but it's just a little bit too slow here.
You don't pick the ones, see?
Yeah, this is one of the few positions where I think Coin Marrow Slicer is justifiable, but because you lose out on Coin Lapidary, I also don't mind just even silencing the Karj and dealing with it.
They're not trapped. They're my friends.
Oh. I mean, he has good ways to spend his mana for at least the next 2 turns. So I didn't like the idea of double Twin Slice, but Twin Slice Hero Power I was pretty interested in because it would preserve his One Maker.
On wings of destruction they come.
Ooh. Yep, death is huge here. You can also just throw down the Sethic, get it on board. I think it's fine to go for that little bit more tempo and the 1 generation. Right. Also not the greatest board for them to go for the Shard Shatter Mystic. Oh, speaking of, because they would have to give up their own 2 minions. But then they get the healing from Apotheosis, right? So how much does the launch phase net you in terms of damage? With Pyro. I guess that's fair. It's tough to say either way. Because Glory's hand is also just not closing out the game all that soon. He has a lot of damage, but it comes throughout separate turns with the Marrow Slicer.
Apologies,
so
I
that
think I
makes
was
me
just...
think that the 1 attack minions are still a little bit valuable here.
Yeah, I was just clearing my throat there for a second. I think I left myself muted to the audience while, unluckily, Gia was still subjected to my commentary there. So apologies. Just imagine that I was saying the most insightful, clever analysis of all time because I was actually coincidental.
Oh no, I was talking to myself again. Last time it was known to you but not the audience. This time it was known to the audience and not you.
Good one, Derek. Well, anyway, it's looking like it's turning around a little bit here for Bankyugi, because we were having a discussion about whether or not you clear the board in order to get rid of the apotheosis here. But in the end, it does mean that Glory is able to... He's clearing off the board, which means he's not getting much damage face, but he is keeping the board clear, so he might be able to just win purely through sticking this minion damage.
Yeah. I think this is a very clean turn to go for that. Soul Shear is one of the few single target removals you have that doesn't involve wasting damage that can go face, so it's absolutely premium here. For Bankyugi, I like that he held on to the Radiance last turn, even though he had 2 mana floated, because every additional spell is potentially more healing with this Pyro Apple in hand.
On wings of destruction they come.
Ooh.
Interesting. Holy Smite looking tempting with the Wild Pyro on this turn if you want to deviate away from Shadow Word Ruin.
It's tough, right? Because if you go Pyro, Apo, Holy Smite, Radiance, that is 4 healing and then 3 healing, I believe. And then 1 healing from the Radiance. And then the 5 from the Radiance itself. Which is a decent proposition because there's not likely to be that many more minions on board in the near future.
That's the difference here, is that, you know, what are you waiting for? Like, if Militia comes down... Okay, I guess actually, to be fair, I was going to say if Militia comes down, you're dead anyway. That is currently the reason to save it, right? Is if you are afraid of a big Militia.
It's true. And there's also just Bankyugi maybe hoping to force Glory to use this last charge of the Marrow Slicer before Blade Dance happens. So there's like the chance that when you play Pyro Apo, it's not immediately Blade Dance away. But this top deck skull from Glory is absolute nuts.
Is that a zero... sorry, is that a 0 fragment Militia as well?
My deck tracker is saying there are 7 soul fragments in the deck.
Oh, really?
I don't know what's going on.
It showed up as 0 there. I'm rapidly losing track as I tried to sort out my tech issues. The main thing is now that Bankyugi has access to Murazon plus Skull plus a 6/4 plus the weapon as well. It's a disgusting Murazon that he can even end with Wave of Apathy if he needs to stop this damage coming through and just pray that he can mitigate enough damage here.
I absolutely think the Wave of Apathy is necessary. It's just a Radiance here. Remove 5 damage.
True.
And if he can just stay alive this last turn, then he turns the corner with the Pyro Apple. You can see he's been super patient holding onto it. The space attack is also just trying to maximize minion presence for the Pyro the next turn. Yeah, it's a bit short. 8 to 10 damage, I think.
6, 8.
No. 6, 9, 12?
11, 12.
With
Yeah,
Bane?
I count 12. In which case,
so close.
you cannot just ignore the board then, right? You have to do something else, which could obviously come in the form of Goal Face, Shard Shatter, Twin Slice, Blade Dance to clear off the remaining minions on board.
More likely just Militia from where I'm sat, I think.
Yeah. That makes sense to me as well.
But you
Trade
do want to
in
get
first,
all of
though.
the minion damage face to go. I can understand like pushing the glaive bound. You lose 1 total damage face in order to preserve 1 more 3/3 on the board. Maximizing healing and mana efficiency as well. And this is the turn Bankyugi was waiting for. However, this is not that many spells.
It's not
Like-
loads, but it's
It's 1
enough.
spell off from dealing with the Militia, but it's still a ton of healing, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, it depends what you get off the one maker. Like, obviously, in the Dream of Renew, you can clear everything up here,
True.
but it's still enough here, right, to heal back up to most of the way to full.
Ray's dead. If you get Cleric, that might give you Mind. So it's 1 maker and 1 cost spell. Holy Smite is nuts here. Inner
Inner
Fire
Fire is
Militia
insane
pretty
as
good.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heal 3 essentially.
Very nice. Can even take it out at the end as well. Cleared the board, healed up for a huge amount here. This was what Bankyugi has been setting up for many, many turns at this point. And while it's looking a little scary now, it's definitely not yet over for Glory. That was the big swing turn for Bankyugi. And if Glory can capitalize on this one turn of clear board before Bankyugi swings things back with the Apotheosis next turn, maybe it's enough to get there.
Maybe, but Bankyugi's done a very impressive job of forcing Glory to play these cards that he would rather hold for the lethal, like Kayn, just because there was nothing better for Glory to do. Not having the second skull is a very big deal here. Breath?
Yeah, Bankyugi does obviously need to prioritize clearing off this damage, because if the minions can attack face twice, that is when it potentially starts moving into territory of being able to get damage done.
Correct. Ooh, I guess he can just Wave of Apathy now with Courage.
Right. Looks like what he's setting up for.
Oh!
Ooh.
Best result to pick up too.
16 damage needing to be found here for Glory. I think even with the perfect skull, you're still not finding it on this turn.
Yeah, there were, prior to that draw, 6 Soul Fragments in the deck, 5 Soul Fragments in the deck. Okay, 4 now, at the very end. And I
think you have to clear. Like, your options are either say you cannot have the Apotheosis in your deck, but I think what is more likely is that Bankyugi has demonstrated an inability to effectively clear off this board and is instead relying on developing his own side of the board. So what you're supposed to do, I think, is go for the Blade Dance on this turn and try and keep your board alive.
But if you Blade Dance this turn, you also have to sink damage into the Kayn off of the Karj.
You do.
I don't know. I think I would rather try to maximize base damage and pray there's no Apo and then just get the draw up.
Time grows short.
It's the difference maker is the fact that the full clear requires you to sink in your Eldraki into a minion as well. I don't mind Blade Dance to deal with the other minion. But this Kayn left over is the difference maker.
I don't know. I'm unconvinced. Like, I fully appreciate it. Sinking 5 damage in there is maybe just too much, and you end up
It was
losing
9
the game.
damage.
Well, you hold back on some of the guys, right? Like you don't play all your twin slices on that turn then.
With either play, Glory would still need a skull, I believe, to get over the top at the end.
I think so. I think so.
So, pretty easy Apotheosis here for Bankyugi. He can also just play the Eldraki Warblades for the full clear, fit in the hero power, and heal up for 1 billion at the end.
Yeah, absolute maximum healing. And it's just game winning here. I think with Militia gone, the board control route is completely exhausted to Glory. If you can find exactly Skull here, then maybe we can talk. That's not it though.
Nope, we cannot talk. Mute yourself again, Dark. You cannot talk.
Talking is cancelled.
Very clean game from Bankyugi, I think. Glory also just gave himself the best shot, but you can see the difference that having both skulls makes versus only having one between this game and the one that Glory had up against Surrender. And looking back on it, I can even see the reason for you wanting to cycle the Consume Magic that early on.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that I'm giving mixed signals here, because on the one hand, I'm saying how against Priest you need to be prioritizing absolute maximum damage at all points and push it all to the face wherever possible. Whereas on the other hand, I was advocating for sinking more damage than was necessary into the board in order to clear it off at multiple points there. But I just think with the hand he had, he wanted to try and turbo cycle more through his deck to try and find the big beefier plays. I definitely don't begrudge Glory for the way he played it. It was prioritizing more stat development on the board, which is very powerful in those early turns. In this instance, though, it just was not quite enough to get the damage through.
I think what was really brilliant is Bankyugi holding on to the Pyro Apple until he had max
Yep.
mana to play with it. There are several spots where could have gone for that combo a bit earlier and still gotten a clear board, but he would have ended up with a relatively fragile Pyro, which Glory could then potentially just Blade Dance away and redevelop. So he waited for the last possible moment where Glory didn't have great redevelopment post Pyro, which means the Pyro gets even potentially more healing through. And it can be scary as Priest to play with a relatively low health total towards the end, but you can start to predict the damage cutoffs from Demon Hunter after you've seen all of the skull cards, which I think Bankyugi had by that point. So very, very clean.
Yeah, it was just clinical at the end from Bankyugi to mop everything up. It does mean, I think, that he got the win with the easier of the two decks, in my opinion. Again, Highlander Rogue is a deck that at certain points has been considered at the top tier, but only like very briefly, and I think by a very small percentage of the player base. Like Jambray has obviously been one of the players who's been championing the deck most historically, trying to get like a couple of top 16 finishes on ladder a while ago. I think most of the player base will disagree with him. It just doesn't seem like the quite the right version of the deck at the moment. But with obviously Bankyugi and RDU bring it to this week of Grandmasters, there's something there. And I suspect that something might be Zephyrus the Great in your starting hand.
Yep, definitely feels like it. One Thief is also a card that can be kept, but it doesn't feel like you get to play it very soon at all, right? If you expect the curve to be Zephyrus into Wild Growth, so I don't mind tossing that away.
Okay, this is a Zephyrus Wild Growth hand, right? You've got Dragon Queen Alexstrasza here. Like, I know it's against Mage, which is somewhat of an aggressive deck, but surely that's the curve we're looking at now.
Definitely seems like it. Well, Neophyte, also a key card to have in Bankyugi's back pocket to sometimes just delete a turn from the Mage side.
You don't even have to pick Backstab here. You can just go Wild Growth and then go for Vendetta as well to take it out anyway. So clean.
On the other side, though, pretty clean turn from Glory, having Dragon activators for Arcane Breath to go along with his Wand Maker. It's a big deal. Session?
Yep, I'll take the Sesh.
At the very least, it's a play for next turn with the Violet Spellwing.
What about Polymorph? Is that ever a consideration here? Your opponent's on the coin, they're rogue.
Oh, sorry. When you started the sentence with what about, I thought you were going to say secret because it goes better with Spellwing, and he does kind of just have a curve going forward.
Well, no, I said the one worst option, actually, Gia. That was my choice.
We were both on board for the Cram session, but I think the Netherwind portal makes the most sense here. I'm just going to ignore what you said about Polymorph afterward.
What? That was valid. It's an Edwin deck.
Okay, it's valid.
Don't erase me. Well, if you're not going for a Hanar turn here, it does make sense going for the Miscreant, right? You could deny your opponent a strong turn. You get the Togwaggle on the very next turn. It's just looking insane.
Yep. The only somewhat downside for Bankyugi is this is going into the turn 5 for the Dragon version of Tempo Mage, which you can kind of put them on having a good play outside of a spell combo anyway, so the Cult Neophyte a lot of the time is just a Bloodfin Raptor, but I think it's well worth it for Bankyugi to preserve the curve TM.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Underling.
I would let my opponent play a 5-mana 3/5 if it meant I get to draw 3 cards for 0 mana on the following turn.
Yep.
That sounds like a decent exchange. That's pretty cute, right? You can then bump into the Spellwing and then take out the Underling just with 1 buff.
Yeah, that's probably worth it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he took the 1 this time. Good news. When he is now not guaranteed to have expensive cards off the 1, but it's still good because Cycle is king. So there's a pretty clean value trade here, and then you could just go for another Spellkin.
A simple spell.
It's tough in a hand that only has the 1 Ellie, of course. because you want to set up the elemental allies, but it's just not quite working yet. Primordial Studies has a decent chance of hitting an elemental, so that's something you definitely start looking for in the next turn or two.
Fair. Wait, what is it aside from Reservoir? Oh, Steward, right?
Stuart, yeah. Ooh.
Full Celt will curate one of these 6 drops. Not Ogwaggle, we've seen that.
If
So,
power is
Flick
what you seek,
and
knowledge
Flick for
Bronx.
Bronx.
what I provide.
Yeah, Flick as well. Like, I was talking a little bit about why Flick is included in these decks at all, and one of the big reasons is pretty undeniably Mana Giant. Like, if you can hit Mana Giant with Flick, the mage just has such neutered aggressive potential.
It's true. Potentially even just the Cobalt Spellkins, the way the board is.
True.
But it feels like he's gonna stun one of these back into the hand.
Yeah, he would have played Dirty Tricks otherwise, you'd imagine.
Plagiarize is nice also to just be off-putting to the mage for them going with the apprentice game plan.
Yeah, kind of close. Like, I don't hate the idea of Draconic Lackey here, because you don't actually overdraw a card yet, but like the idea of them having to play this out for 6 mana is just, it's essentially deleting it.
Right. This is so much tempo, protects the full Celt, sometimes even protects the Hanar. I think Bankyugi's taking an appropriately aggressive stance here.
Okay, just starts with Trade Ping. He knows it's not any of the cards that can mess with that now. Didn't want to go with the missiles, obviously, to play around Never Surrender. So I think that was probably pretty smart ordering from Glory.
Now he knows it's not Dirty Tricks and is scared of Ambush and Plagiarize. Which are
It was played from the deck, right? Which could be any of them at this point.
I don't see much harm in starting with Lab Partner because it does just look like he's gonna Arcane Missiles at some point and try and snipe off the smaller minions. Okay, now
Yeah,
he
it's
has
just whether he
these-
wanted... just whether he wanted to get the Lab Partner with the reduction from Primordial Studies, but I guess it's more important to test for the Ambush.
double missiles. That has a decent chance of dealing with things, I suppose. It's fine. He can get the super cheap giant for the next turn, but without Conjurer's Calling, it doesn't feel particularly effective.
That's a
Flick,
1 mana
guaranteed.
flick.
Oh, sorry. One. Keep forgetting the nerf.
You're just imagining back to your glory days as a Galakron Rogue player.
Deletes the card he bounced back to Glory's hand. The tempo is not stopping whatsoever for Bankyugi. Miscreant. There's like a small argument for playing around Raz by trading in the 1/1, but the only thing you lose is a 1-attack minion in the Miscreant, so I think it's fine.
Yeah. I agree.
What? Not Nova there? Really?
Looking for something more impressive here, for sure.
I guess that's fair.
feel
If the
pretty
play
good,
was
though.
just Nova, it was like giant allies and call it a day. I don't know.
Could have gone Lab Partner Primordial Studies and then Giant as well, like try
Yeah.
and set up for the 2 turns to actually activate the Primordial Studies.
It says explode!
Well, we're looking at a Cyclone turn now.
We are. It's clearly not very impactful right now, but he does get
Oh.
1/2 of the side quest done. He gets himself Frost Nova to go alongside the Giant next turn. He can start to do some pretty powerful stuff, to be fair.
It's really big. But so is this Kronks. He could go... Oh man, there's so many good options.
Yeah, literally. I guess it's probably not Dragon Queen on this turn, right?
No, I don't think so. I'm just unsure how much respect he should pay these spell damage minions because Raz Freeze is a very real possibility as maybe the only way Glory comes back from here, outside of course Apprentice Evocation.
Life and
I'm kind of coming round to Dragon Queen, actually. Like, yeah, I know I said that like just as he was about to play it, but just because Kronk's here, I think it's not that much better than the tempo you will get over 2 turns with 2 1-mana dragons.
Darkness wanes.
I guess that's fair. If he was going to go for Kronks and buff, then there's not much point to the buff if you're trading the lab part. So with the trade, Alex Jaza just for the expensive minion out of the way, and then you set up for Kronk's buff the next turn.
I have become one.
Glory rolls up his sleeves. He knows what it's time for. It's prime time. Let's throw down the Solarian and watch the fireworks.
There is no hand space.
Oh
no! Double Evo? Plus, he also wants to get side quest done, but there's not much space. Uh-oh.
Disaster. Was that the
I mean-
Solarian turn there?
I hate that we're asking this after the fact, but I was just about to ask the same question. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like, I was trying to set it up because he literally just rolled up his sleeve and looked like an anime hero, so I was on board to just jump in with it. But, like, it was such a strong giant freeze turn there. You get the activation of the side quest, you start threatening damage, you can just go for Solarian clear next turn.
yeah, I have to agree.
'Cause this is dreadful.
Overdrawing one spell. At least he won't overdraw the next card off the top.
Mhm.
But 13 plus 6, 2 off lethal. Button is sometimes lethal, but that seems like a not great use of mana.
I mean, I don't want it to be lethal here just because I want him to play the Murazond. It's just so stupidly powerful, I want him to play it.
Yeah, get yourself a 7/7 and an 8/8. Why not?
And an 8/8 for 1 mana.
And if you go for that, is it like BT the Solarian? And then send the rest base? Or do you have to clear everything? You actually can't clear everything. Right?
What are the cards he currently has?
Well, he can trade off and go like Kronk off. But that doesn't feel very useful at this point.
Is nigh.
I mean, it leads
I
to
don't
some horrendous trades.
It's so strange because I figured Kronk's biggest role in this matchup was to give Bankyugi burst, where he doesn't have
Right.
that much of it outside of Zephyrus. It's board-based burst, but it's still something that Glory doesn't necessarily account for. Now all the damage is face up, and you're still losing to the same thing, which is freeze into Apprentice shenanigans anyway. This feels like Glory has surprising amount of breathing room right now.
Really?
With a Nova. I mean,
I guess more than it appears at
Yeah.
first glance. Like, he's not just dead.
yeah. He's clearly losing, make no mistake, but
Right.
he has windows to get back in the game because Bankyugi has not pushed much face damage. Like, the play of Kronk's buff and send everything face was also very risky, but maybe some half measure to give Bankyugi continuous outs for Zephyrus even if the board gets frozen was
Fair enough.
something we're thinking about. Sorry, has he played Zephyrus? Maybe he has.
Yes, he played Zephyrus Wildgrowth this game, right
Ah,
at the start.
Okay, so I'm just being stupid. Never mind. How about scheming some primes?
Act as your scale.
That does sound good to me. Scheme the Prime. The secrets are kind of bad. Like, I guess you probably just play Dirty Tricks to have an extra card next turn, right? Even if it means overdrawing one.
Sure. Okay. You mean Kronks? That does give him burst,
Ooh.
which is the one qualm I had with Bankyugi's line.
Okay, we're freezing again. You can even activate the 6/6 on this. Oh no, sorry, not because there's already one in play. I was going to say you can go learn Draconic, but you can go this first, then learn Draconic, and then activate it next turn instead, if you like.
Not nothing. Board locking is incredibly powerful against Rogue. There's only one board space that usable at the moment. I suppose too, because Glory does have to push face damage at some point. The outs exist. There's Apprentice ×2 in the deck. There's Evocation in the deck.
Hmm.
If I'm Bankyugi, I will definitely want to get rid of the 6/6 in case there's yet another freeze.
Right, of which there's multiple ways to go about that. Just freezing it, I think, is fine.
Yeah, I was definitely looking at Rain Freeze and Edwin, perhaps.
You are potentially board locking yourself again. Is that a concern?
That's true. The thing is, everything he wants to play on the board is just more board
It's
development.
just stuff. Yeah.
It's not things that generate him ways of getting lethal through burst. And that's why I value this Eviscerate so highly. It's one of the things that can go through freeze.
I agree. Ooh.
Oh my... Wait. Are these both twin spell?
Yes. So that's Raz for 2. Oh, it's just not quite there, is it? It's close.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well,
It's okay.
yeah, he can trade and ping. Oh, there's not enough mana, is there, to freeze everything and go Raz ping?
True mastery takes dedication.
Well, he just leaves up the 6/6 for the moment. Like, this is about as powerful as a turn as I think you could reasonably expect at this point.
Oh man, although the one Ray of Frost being held makes all the difference, right? Because if the Raz sticks, there's a potential way back into the game just by virtue of that. But now the Edwin can trade into it.
The Edwin can trade. You could step prime if you want to be just kick your opponent in the teeth while they're down. Yeah, sure.
Faceless, can plagiarize as well.
Yeah, step the prime, just
Oh
in case.
Oh my.
It's smart. It's the panic button, right? You're winning at the moment, but you need your contingency plan.
Yep. Fair enough. Okay, one shot at Frost Nova does Glory have.
Or Blizzard, to be fair.
Yes. Yeah, he has just run out of time to amass resources. He's had to play multiple spells the same turn before getting Apprentice and before cycling, so the value engine did fall a little bit short.
He didn't play the Elemental last turn, did he, either? Or he could have drawn 3 spells here.
And
Not quite.
While I want to say this was very well played from Bankyugi, and it was for the most part, I think that Glory did mess up big time in the middle there with the giant over, the prime over giant.
Yeah.
Which made him overdraw some resources with the side quest completion.
Right. Yeah. I guess that does make sense. I think, like, what I want to say now is, like, obviously, congratulations to Bankyugi. You got through to the semi-finals here. It's a huge moment for him, taking down the player who is already going through to the World Championships. It's the end of the road for Glory this season. He can come back, try again next season. And, of course, he still has the World Championships to look forward to. This would have just been his victory lap if he'd done it again. He's already done what he set out to this year, and he hasn't been relegated as well. So it's a fantastic season once again for Glory. But for Bankyugi, I love watching him at the end of these series. Whenever he wins, he's respectful. He gives us a nice sign to show he's happy. Whenever he loses, he's always respectful as well. You know, just throwing out essentially, I think, a hand gesture that means well played, good game. And just, I think, such a healthy presence to have here in the Grandmasters scene, as he could potentially still be our representative going through to the World Championships.